Howdy, y'all.
Idaho Range Joe.
Hello.
We got Bill with us tonight. And Pepper, but Bill too, which is kind of interesting. We don't usually have Bill. Why doesn't it do it this way, though? There we go. This could take some
Share my screen. If you want to see what advent of code would be.
Did you not want to show your screen?
No, I'm sharing it. So.
Okay. Brent's saying, good evening, Kai, Bill, Pepper. Oh my god, how many people are on here? Says our hip-hop music is really loud. There we go. All right. Now I will switch to drawing marker, and I will work on this. So, tonight's work is brought to you by the letter G.
Alright. Well, Bill, I already have a problem that you could probably help me with.
Yeah.
Bill's like, wait.
So I'm trying to share my screen. And I'm in my preferences because it says that I'm not able to share it.
Alright, let me go look.
I just need to know where I need to go. You don't need to come in.
I need to see it.
Okay.
What does it do when you try and share your screen? Unable to share this screen. Please update system preferences to allow screen recording for browser.
This one?
Preferences.
System?
Yeah, maybe. Try to share it again to see what it does. I just need to read it again. Right. Please update system permissions. So system permissions, I think, is the one you have.
Mm-hmm. Permissions.
Probably your security and privacy. Maybe. Let me Google it.
Screen recording.
Oh, good. And then browser. So you have to unlock it. Unlock.
Okay. I got it from here.
Okay.
Go back to your own computer.
Oh. Yep, I'm coding. The puzzle opens up at 10 o'clock, so I figured might as well join the show and do something. So.
Yeah, you might as well. I had lunch with these guys. No, I don't want to turn on filter these things. I'd done lunch with these guys, and we were talking about this, and I was like, "It's the whole thing here is accountability. The whole point is so that we all get together at a regular interval and do work." And Bill was like, "Well, that's kind of cool." And I was like, "Yeah, you could join us." He's like, "But I don't draw." And I'm like, "It's accountability. It's not really about drawing." So that's where we are. E-cell. I'm gonna do E-cell, maybe 3. E-cell 3.
All right. I'll be right back.
All right. So now what I'm doing is doing this. And then we're going to bring back deceleration to 5. And now he's back. And he's back. You just wanted to be there. And then he's back.
Okay. If Brent is watching, I guess.
Brent is watching. I'll just play our
So,
best.
I have 6 pages laid out, so, but I only have 3 of them sketched into, so there we go. See? Alright.
He's here, watching. Always watching.
Yes. Yeah, we met up for lunch. That was a very interesting lunch for sure.
I love that. That was a lot of fun. I love you guys, so there's that.
Alright. I've at least... So, Brent, you should be happy. I have at least panels blocked out for 6 pages. So, woohoo! And if you notice, like, the top part of what I'm writing on is, like, literally what you basically sent over to me. Minus all the markings and everything that you did. I went through and I swapped everything that you put in there and all of that fun stuff. Although I did take out some of the comments that were like asking me questions. So. But I left your reminders in. Such as this one.
Uh-oh. I think we're running rapidly out of spots.
I won't be around too long, though. But I was just going to ask Pepper, did the questions in there actually help?
Well, there were some things that were like, okay, yeah, I see that point, and then I just changed it to what you had changed it to. But there was like other things, like I don't think I got like the full-on comments because, of course, I sent it over to you in Word, and I have a Mac, so I have Pages instead. So like some things I think may have been lost in translation.
Yeah, because I was using... Thanks, Tormund. Sorry. Cat decided he wanted to hang out on my desk. Yeah, I was using Word, so...
Yeah. But like, I left a reminder in there about like basically the of them traveling back in time because of the ghost. There's only one ghost child, by the way. I didn't clarify a lot of things, so I am very sorry on that. There's only one ghost child that interacts with the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's other ghost children. Yes, but there's only one that interacts with them the entire
David.
thing. I'm not quite sure what I was trying to get at. What this doctor and nurse were doing to these kids. All I know is like the way I wrote it. It was kind of murky,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that's probably the best thing for this story is to keep it murky.
Well, I think of what they're trying to do as more of a visual media instead of the text media. So with the drawing, I'm sure it'll come across a lot better. Because there are parts I was like, what are you trying to say in this particular line? And then I go down a couple and figure it out from there. But it's because of the translation of the medias.
Yeah. Basically when they on page 39, I kind of noticed like, oh yeah, I was very unclear about what was going on there. Because basically all the kids are in the storage area and they're like hiding from the bad ghost, I guess, in a sense. And they find each box that they see the storage area with items that belong to all the kids that died. And each box has a small container but with a heavy seal lid on top, like they are urns.
Yeah.
And I just basically, I think I had like that sentence was completely weird. I was like, wow, my dyslexia was really bad on that. I didn't.
Yeah, and then when I read page 40, I understood what you were saying in that on page 39. So I was like, okay, let's go back and take a look. And
yeah. But like the page by page breakdown is actually probably what I started with. It gives me an idea of the roadmap of what each page is supposed to look like. I did this with Bill's writing too, so.
So I can point the finger at Bill a little bit more.
Well, no. That's only if you read something that Bill writes as a script.
I know, but I'm like giving Bill a hard time because he's looking at code right now, trying to figure out what it does.
Yeah. Some of the things like making pages 9 through 12 like just basically a single thing. Like a single thing, and then taking out all the panels. So basically, it's like a free for all on those 3 pages.
Well, it's more so kind of like I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to do like multiple pages, the same description, but of like different instances in the different rooms and the different areas of what's going on. So
yeah,
I was like, okay, well, you could kind of scrunch that down, save a little bit of space, going, this is what I'm doing on these pages, and then have the panel numbers like you have it. So.
Yeah, but there's not like in those 3 pages though. There's really not anyone speaking. It's just visual and sound effects, pretty much going on. So like I could. So what I did was I just shrank the 3 right there, and then just did that way. I should have given you the heads up of Shearport and all of that stuff prior to sending it over to you. I thought I had put it in here, but it's in the original 13 equals 4 storyline. It's not in this one. So there's that. The mystery kid, I don't know if I handled that properly yet. I don't know if I mentioned him enough. I only mentioned him at the tail end. So, and I need to change that because I used the wrong name. That is Dylan Rating.
Well, you mentioned the cat, Brian the cat at the end.
Yeah, He's at the beginning. He's in this first scene, this first page. He like is literally sleeping on the back of Rune, who's napping on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a very. I'm not struggling with it, but I'm very nervous with this script. I don't know if you realize that or not. So.
Yeah. And I was trying to, whenever I go, like when I went through Guys, I'll use his as a prime example, because I didn't actually go through. Yeah, he had the art with it, so I could sit there and visually see what he was also talking about in there. But with yours, because you didn't have the art, I had to kind of draw the pictures in my head as I was reading it, and some of the sentencing, like a lot more, was just me trying to clarify, okay, what are you trying to say, and what's the descriptive term, so I can draw it in my head as I reread that line back through, too. And then
I'm the first one to sit there and let people know I am not a writer. Like, I'm a visual artist, so I struggle with writing a lot. And I never know when to actually show it to someone. So.
Well, and all of us, I think, have a different point. Like, the next time I'm giving something to Brent, it's going to be still in the super rough stage. I'm not going to give it to him with the final art anymore, but it'll still have sketches in it because I can't complete the dialogue until I know where everything places on the page. For me personally, that's my way of doing it. So it's still going to, even I can't just give Brent a script. It would be a jumbled disaster. So some people are just different. Everybody's different about what they do, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I don't know where I was headed with that one. I was headed somewhere important.
It's all good. Also, like, I'll send it to you once I get everything, like, as far as, like, panel and stuff like that, like, the breakdown of each page. I think it should also clarify, like, what I'm doing as well.
When you initially also messaged me, I was like, uh-oh, did his Facebook account get hacked too? Because all of a sudden, message, hey, Brian, I want to send you this file if you could look it over. And it's like, so at work, we're going through the annual security. I'm sure Bill understands that.
Gotcha.
Like all the phishing, don't download the files, all that stuff. And 90% of my job is help desk. And so it's like, is this fake? Is this real? And half the time, I'm like, if you're not sure, just report. So, because Instagram issue that. What now?
2-3 months ago? No, try it. Almost a full year ago.
No, wow.
Yeah, Bill knows Bill knows what you're referring to. So,
There's no real time when a car would decelerate that did not, in fact, have brake lights on. When would it decelerate without brake lights on?
When you let off the brake.
Oh, well, Yeah, but it won't pull down nose. It won't nose down. I guess I
like,
should say it won't nose down unless the brake lights are on.
yeah.
Reverse brake.
Oh, that's true. Going in reverse.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
The only reason is because it's a two-step process to brake a car at this point in time during the animation process, unless I combine reverse and brake lights. Well, you know what? I think it's going to happen so rarely that I don't know. Maybe.
But training purposes, yeah, I would have the.
Yeah, because I think I should turn the turn signals on for braking. Yeah, e-brake. Well, yeah, but there's no e-brake. I mean, there is e-brake, but I'm not going to be discussing that generally speaking. This is decel 0. Sorry, we're going to be doing the over and over and over. Yeah, you don't pull the. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not going to talk necessarily about the e-brake per se. And if I do, I can turn off the brake lights. But I think more often in my animations, I'm going to be normal braking, which will require the brake lights to come on. And I'm afraid I'll forget to throw the lights on, and then we'll render the whole animation out. And then I'll realize that the entire animation's done, and the car's hitting the brakes, and the brake lights aren't on. And my kids will go, the brake lights aren't on. Because they love any mistake you make. So I'm going to go on ahead and just turn the brake lights on everything. Just to make sure that the brake lights are on.
Oh, I see Stack Overflow there, Bill.
Yeah. It's allowed.
Stack collision with heap.
How much of your code's written? Well, I don't know. How much of Stack Overflow?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll be right back.
We'll be right here.
The hard part about this one is going to be parsing it. Because it has two sections, and I have to convert that into something even.
Mm. Irk.
Guy, are you doing your own sound effects?
Maybe.
Would it make it
Sounds
easier
like
if
it.
I just took my video off?
What? I'm having way too much fun irking over here.
There we go. There we go.
It's Pepper. It doesn't make any difference, dude.
Well, it makes a difference for my visual prowess.
Oh, okay. I mean, if it makes you happier, certainly be sure to do it. But I'm just sitting here hitting the brakes.
Fine.
But I mean, it's the same size no matter which way you do it. Besides, I think we just lost.
We just lost Brent.
Brent. Let's come over here on the right side.
I'm only going to hang out till 11 o'clock, by the way.
Well, fine.
Because I'm not a night owl, and I need to wake up tomorrow.
No, but tomorrow, if you wish to join, you of course may from 9 to 11. That is also an option.
In the
I
morning.
know you work the normal job, but you are always welcome to join at any time. And now the lights come on like they're supposed to, and the lights go off, and the lights go off all over the world tonight. Ready?
That's not a problem.
Boy. All right. Now to test this with a different car. Why didn't it put a person in there? Dang it, we have to do the person thing again.
That was my goof. Okay. No.
That sounded maniacal.
Mm-hmm. Once I make the system bend to my will.
Pretty maniacal. That's fair.
Mm-hmm. Class. Oh, I hate that. I don't normally use VS Code, so now I need to make it figure out on how to tab space the way I want.
Okay, so what does stack collision with heaps as mean?
You need Stack Overflow.
Is that the same thing?
I don't believe so. Well, what did you say?
Stack collision with heap?
Stack collision with heap. I mean, maybe.
I haven't seen it in a long time, so I'm assuming people have gotten kind of over it.
Mm-hmm. Stack Overflow is typically the error people would get back in the day. It refers to your memory space, I believe. A lot of programs, I know Python works on a stacked logic where your memory stacked, you have a thing of in memory.
Mm-hmm.
And if your code is inefficient and doesn't remove things, you'll get an overflow where you went out of bounds. Now, the problem with that is because the system is managing memory for a whole bunch of other stuff. If it overflows, it could collide. You could have a collision with something else. It causes problems. That's bad. So, hopefully,
It was one of my favorite error messages to get.
Mhm.
I mean, not generally speaking, because once you got that error, it meant you were done with whatever
Right.
you were doing. But it was still, and I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen it since probably Windows 3.1.1 era. Windows 95, Windows 3.1.1, that kind of. But we used to think it was the funniest thing because it just sounds so funny. Stack collision with heap. Just an image of this stack of things just colliding with like a heap of trash or something. Which probably is pretty accurate to exactly what you were describing. Sounds pretty close to kind of what was going on.
Yep.
You got your trash junk from leftover from your memory, and the stack of memory that you're trying to do collided with this junk that was still in the memory. You should have taken care of that, man.
There's no programmer that's good at it. That's why higher level languages do it for you.
Yeah.
Or other programming languages like Rust force you to manage it. It will check and it will not allow you to not manage your memory. Where some more original languages, if you will, because like C, C++, C Sharp, and things like that, they'll let you do whatever you want. And if you don't clean it up, your fault.
Gotcha. I was just wondering, like, that was the thing I'd heard, of terminology I had heard.
Okay. All right. Mm, all right.
Good.
So, did you have any questions about your economy in your world?
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
I remember.
You're like, that's why I'm here. Okay, so I was thinking about this and I realized that something like a convention is an actual functioning meritocracy, right? We all volunteer, nobody actually gets paid. We do it because we love it. And I keep thinking this because as NDK gets larger and larger, the requirements on the staff have become bigger and bigger, right? Like I'm now to the point where I probably spend in total, a good 3 or 4 weeks a year of 40-hour days on that convention. So probably an entire month is spent of 40-hour days consecutively at this point in time, which I do completely voluntarily. I'm not getting paid at all. I mean, other than getting the cool room at the Gaylord for a weekend, and and all my meals are paid and stuff like that. But short of that, I mean, it literally is that kind of thing. And on the flip side, it's kind of nice to get the merit of being, I'm a director and I'm in charge and yada, 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 and stuff like that. But I was just thinking today when I was talking to my buddy Tony, who is in charge of the video rooms, we were talking about how do you draw more people in. And I mean, neither one of us are getting paid for this. We're just doing this because we both really need to get more people into the video rooms, and it's much more important, you know what I mean, like that. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, none of us really want to get paid. I mean, we're all actually pretty happy just getting the job done. Um, and as long as people recognize us for what we do, it's a real good meritocracy. So the question really is, how do you extend that further? If you assume that you can make everybody, if you can find a way to put everybody in a job that they all like, and then find a way to compensate people for the jobs that are sucky, because there will always be we have to clean out the sewers.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to have to happen, So how do you figure out a way to make this blow it up? Because I keep wanting to make the Bellatrix Rising universe into a meritocracy,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's something I've been really thinking about. Because what you had said before about capitalism was very true. But I also believe, to some degree, I mean, like, I know right now nobody is paying me a dime to work on Bellatrix Rising. I mean, I sell one here, I sell one there. But the reality is, I spent 2 years working on that where nobody paid me $1, and I put in 60-hour weeks. So the belief in the concept, I mean, there is a way to get people to do something that does not require threatening their life to make them do the work. So the question I'm kind of after is, if we presume we get a more equitable setup, where you can kind of set up the world where you have a house, you have food, you don't have to worry about that. So what jobs are you going to do to help society? How do we change the thought process to make it so that those people who don't want to work? How do you make them work? If the default mode is just to assume we are all going to work anyway, then there will always be those people who don't. How do you motivate them to?
Mhm.
Because I feel like we've gotten into a position where we presume everybody is lazy, except that all the people I know are volunteers or whatever they do. Volunteer work, that's not lazy. Volunteer work, certainly not lazy. All of us artists, we're working for peanuts, so it's not money that's motivating us. So
I wouldn't describe it as lazy. I would describe it as conservation of energy. We're as a species, we're designed to not put out a whole lot of energy because we might need it. Now we don't live in that cutthroat, world anymore. Like, we live in houses, we have air conditioning. Life is grand. We're not living in caves anymore.
Right.
But that DNA is still there, and if we don't need to waste energy, we won't. Right? Now, we are also, I don't know the right word for this. I feel like we also are looking for pleasure in various things. So you volunteering at those things because you enjoy to do it, you're getting something from that. You're getting dopamine, you're getting happy chemicals, you're getting something.
Yeah, it's not for free, but
right.
but also they're not giving me $1 bill, so I'm like trying to figure out that one.
Right. Now money doesn't really bring happiness. That's a true statement. That's always been true. It can be exchanged for happiness, right? So it's just a means to an end, and it's always treated that way. Like, most people that do a job is like, I'm just doing this to get paid, so that I can exchange it for happiness elsewhere.
Right. I feel like
money doesn't mean anything. It's just the vehicle by which I will attain some other form of pleasure for myself.
Yeah. The only problem that I'm having with it is you cannot live without it. Distraction.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with everything above board, but I feel like if we require money in that bottom square of what's his name, Maslow's triangle pyramid of needs, if you require money on the bottom row of that, then people start to become thieves and people start to do crime, because they'll either get slid out because of an oversight, they'll get slid out because of whatever, and when they do, they don't have enough money to live, and then they'll do crime. And I'm not just talking about like petty crime. I think there are a number of people, I even think you could even see corruption in government because of that. I was reading a book called Republic Lost, which is about what's going on sort of in the world. And one of the things they had said was, it's not like politicians are corrupted right away. They don't walk in going, haha, I'm going to make $1 billion. What happens is, as a junior councilman, they go in, and then the oil companies say, here's $10,000 a month and no strings attached, we promise. And then they wait 20 years until they get used to having an extra $10,000 a month. Then they say, vote this way or we pull it away. And at that point in time, the senator has got a mansion and 3 cars and his kids are in college. They wait until he's pivoted to a point where pulling the money away will actually damage his life. And so he has to vote in their favor because otherwise his life will be destroyed. So it's not just the, if you take it away from the poor kid down the street, he'll steal bread.
Mhm.
It happens at a high level too. But it's that whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that bottom row. The other rows, I think money is fine for. I just don't think the money works in that bottom row.
I think even if money didn't exist, right, theft would still exist.
Oh, I'm losing you. I'm sorry. I keep turning you down because we got a lot of distortion on your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's all right. But then I turned you down, and now I didn't hear anything you just said. So,
well, it's probably because I moved the window I over to my right, so I'm facing away from my camera.
That's fine.
So it should be better. I just moved it over. I think even if money did not exist, there was no money, there was no credits, there was no gold, none of that. We were a barter society. There'd still be theft, right? Because there'd be those without, there would be with, and there would be those for whom there is no amount that would ever be enough. Right?
Yeah, but I think it'd be far, far fewer. I mean, I don't think we'll not have police. I don't think that there will, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it'll be a crimeless society by any stretch. But I do think that if you took and covered the bottom row, you'd lose a lot of crime. Not all of it by any stretch. I think that you've got people who are broken. You'll always have the people who are, they were raised wrong. Something went wrong. Something just didn't happen right. And you end up with people who are going to be thieves and stuff like that. So I agree with you.
And so the other point is that regardless of its form, the main function of any currency is to convey the amount of work that I did that I can transfer to someone else. So if you do work and I do work, and I want some of the work that you did, I can trade my work for your work. Because it's standards. It's a standard, right? So we didn't have a standard. We were a barter society. And if I had cows, you didn't want a cow. Well, how do I get your work, right? So maybe I have to trade my cows to someone else to get pies, and then take those pies and get quilts because you wanted quilts. And somewhere in that chain of exchange, there was a whole unquantifiable amount of loss in my amount of work effort to get your work. So I had to trade 2 cows now to go through the whole bit just to get what you're doing, right? So they created a standard, and that standard was a currency. So that we could barter that, and that would be equivalent.
We were talking before, and I know you and I have talked about an hour unit being a barterable commodity.
Right.
Like 1 hour of time. And then we talked about how there was a problem with what do you do when 1 hour of your time is more valuable than my 1 hour of time. And then I said, but the problem with that, of course, is that implies that in society, you are more valuable than me. And what do you do in that instance? That puts you in the rat race to better yourself by another standard,
right?
In order to instead of bettering yourself for your standard, you're bettering yourself for Pepper's standard or for Mariah's standard, or Brent. Let's say Brent is both of our bosses. You and I are both working for Brent, and Brent has decided that you're worth 2 cows and I'm worth 1 cow. the only way for me to be worth 2 cows is for me to do whatever Brent wants me to do, whatever loop Brent wants me to jump through in order to get to the point where I'm worth 2 cows.
Or better yourself and increase your skill level such that you would be desirable for someone to have paid 2 cows.
Right. And so I think you were the one that said some kind of neutral party. So it can't be Brent that values me, and Brent that values you because Brent is an interested party. It has to be the division of valuable party division or whatever, which would say you are worth 20 units and I am worth 10 units, and then I can take a test and that will make me worth 20 units or something like that.
Right.
And I think that was our solution, and that was what I was trying to get with you on this one. Was
it was a combination. It was like you'd almost have like a guild of like
a guild. That's what you
guild of IT or whatever, and the world of IT would judge my value, and I would not be able to be paid outside of whatever the guild of IT said that my value was. So any company would hire me, but my value is based off of a judgment of my peers.
right.
But also the higher level of skill that I have, I also must assume an amount of responsibility.
Right. Well, and that was the other thought.
I can get more, but I need to be more responsible.
Right, because yes, Bill is worth 2 cows and Guy is worth 1 cow, but Bill also will be held responsible if the cows die in the winter or whatever. Mm-hmm. Therefore, Bill has to make sure that part of this is that Bill's going to make sure that the heat's on in the barn, right, which is Bill's responsibility. And if Bill doesn't do that, then Bill goes down to a 1 cow responsibility level.
Clearly, I'm not capable of handling it.
Yeah, you clearly didn't know how to turn on the heat in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like these oversimplified examples. They make me laugh because I start to wonder whether we're all.
The real trick with all this, because I was thinking about it the other day after we had talked, was, and what spawned that whole conversation that got us to that point was that for us as human beings, it is a huge deal just around fairness, right? So that's like baked in, like deep somewhere in the brain about fairness. So it's perceived, it's purely perceptual. If I'm getting 2 cows and you're getting 1 cow, and I'm taking on a whole lot of responsibility that you do not understand,
mm-hmm,
maybe you're not even capable of understanding it, and that's why you're not at a 2 cow level, right? To you, it's going to seem very unfair that I'm getting 2 cows, even though from a third-party perspective, it's extremely fair.
It's totally the way it's supposed to be, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's a problem we have in society now. Like, you could argue that billionaires right now probably have no reason to have their billions, and there's an argument to be made there, certainly for a lot. But there is also an argument that there are a lot of wealthy people that worked 90-hour weeks, slept on the floors in their businesses. They built it from the ground up with their bare hands, right? And they're wealthy because they were worth it. They put in that effort.
Right.
And you may have, the barista that works in the office think, why is he making, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, and I'm sitting here for, $7 an hour.
Right. But I think that's actually a great example as well,
mm-hmm,
which is we have people who did no work that are billionaires. They didn't do anything. They just inherited the money from their parents. And therefore, they've got no value themselves. They didn't sleep on the floor. Their dad did, or their grandfather did.
In fairness, we presume they have no value. We don't know the work they currently do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying let's make this super simple and not complicated. Let's just presume that we have Joe Smith, the billionaire, who inherited it from his dad, Tom Smith. And his dad was the one that built the company, because we do have people who are like this. And this is when you talk about, in our political arguments, the actual moderates who are for what you're talking about. The moderates who are for this particular thing, of course, are not interested in punishing the guy who did sleep on the floor, who built the company from the ground up. That's not what they're after. But it makes a good example of the problem I'm here trying to solve, which is the only thing you can target at this point in time is their money. There's nothing you can do to target their merit, because their merit isn't tied to their money. Their merit is tied so the billionaire that made $1 billion by working his butt off for 25 years and the billionaire who inherited his money from his dad, they're both equal in their payment for their work. And that's part of the problem that I'm trying to solve. How do you solve that problem? How do I give you worked your butt off for $1 billion or for 25 years? How do I give you your $1 billion and not remove it from society? And me, I just inherited it from dad, right?
My question is, how systemic is that problem? Outside of media coverage and those that may certainly be that way and get themselves that attention.
Well, there are a couple of problems in that vein. How systemic is it? Probably not very, but the fact that they're there is a problem. Part of the other problem, of course, is overvalue of objects. Oil. If you own oil, you're a billionaire for owning just something that's super rare, and that's kind of a different problem child that'll have to be addressed as well, because you didn't do anything. You only own the thing that's valued more. That's probably more of a systemic problem than the one billionaire that inherited from his dad.
Right.
I think oil barons would probably be our bigger problem.
Right. I think
it's the same issue, which is how do you value somebody when they own gold? You know what I mean? Like, or whatever. That's not really work.
How did they own it? How did they come to attain it?
Right. How did they come to? Did they buy it? Did they purchase it?
Because remember, currency is an amount of effort, right? So unless they inherited it, they had to do some amount of effort. They had to do some amount of work.
Right.
There was some contribution to society there that is unquantifiable unless you speak to them and ask them, what'd you do to get this? Did you con a bunch of people and take all their money? Or did you work really hard? Did you invent something and that gave you a whole bunch of money and now you own a whole bunch of gold?
Right. I mean, and that's why I'm kind of wondering what would be the change in society if we took that out of the equation completely. You are Bill, and Bill by himself, coming straight out of high school, Bill gets one widget, one credit. Let's just call it one credit. Every time you do a thing in your field and test with the guild of, I don't know, widget makers, you rank up by a multiplier. So the second time that you make, you test on level 1, it ranks you by a multiplier of 2, let's just say, or not 2, let's do something simpler, 0.02 or something like that. So now that you have made it to second level widget maker, you now make 2.02 credits. Okay, my math sucks, but I think you are 1.02 credits. You get the idea. And then if you want to test yourself to do something else, then you get 1.03 credits, for every hour that you work. So when you work 1 hour, that's what happens. So you work 1 hour and you get, every hour you work now you get 1.02 credits because you're a level 2 widget maker. And if you took all of the other pieces out of this, you can't own property. Well, you can own property, but it does nothing to your value unit. Using and owning and operating property could still be in there. It's just that now you're Bill the property owner, and so every hour that you work on your property or fix your property or trade your property or commodity your property in one way or the other, you still get 1.03 credits because you're a third level property owner. So it's still 1.03 credits, and it doesn't change because of the value of your property, but the value of your property changes some other aspect of culture. So that's what you're working towards. You know what I mean? So in other words, you have all the gold. The bank wants your gold, so they value your company in a higher level because your gold is being used. So your company is valued. But you personally can't use that value yourself because you're the property owner. Your job is property. So in other words, like you're furthering the assets that this company can use. The company can buy more planes or trains or automobiles or whatever because it has more purchasing power in a different economy. Almost like divorcing the companies from the people. And if you leave the company, somebody else has to come over and take the company over, or else it just stops operating. But nobody leaves with a parachute. Nobody leaves with gold. They have to go find something else to do that will get them their 1.03 credits per hour. What about that as a function?
Maybe. I would have to see, like, the company never pays anyone and no one ever pays the company. Basically, some central authority or oligopoly of authorities move money around or move the credits around so that the company can attain resources and the people that go to that company can attain its product.
Right.
And the workers can attain resources from other companies based off of them working in their field, not even for the company,
right. And then when you get extra credits, that allows you to another month of Paramount Plus or whatever. You know what I mean? Like as long as you have extra credits, you've got access to data flows in specific levels, but you don't need to worry about a place to live. You can have ice cream instead of just normal food. You get you can have there's stuff above and beyond. It almost sounds like a communism in a lot of ways, but it's not like communism's by itself bad. It's just, or a socialism. Neither one of them are in a vacuum bad. They've all got their pluses and minuses. So
the challenge with any managed system like that is at some point I'm gonna think my house isn't large enough for me. I just don't fit. Or I have an addiction to hollow suits, right? It's unhealthy, but this is something I do, and I burn most of my credits, so I can't do anything else, and that's not good enough for me because I want to do these other things and go to hollow suits, right? So maybe I start taking my credits and I start getting some other resources that I don't necessarily need, that I know some other people want more than I do and are willing to trade me hollow suit time because they don't care about it at maybe because they make more credits than I do or something. So they'll pay for my hollow suit. I'll get them this thing and we'll start this underground black market.
I was going to say black market, yeah.
And then kind of just back where we were. Capitalism becomes underground, and the managed system sits on top.
Hmm. Feels like to me though, you had said, let's say you have a hollow addiction.
Mhm.
That's uh, that's a mental health problem. So you need to have to address that. You could address that if we were open on mental health, you could address that one. But
Yeah,
I
but
see what
I
you're saying
don't
about the
think
idea.
it's wrong with
I
me.
want more space in a house. You know, you're as part of basic culture, you get one room apartment. Okay,
Mhm.
I see that. That makes some sense. You know, now I like a one room apartment, but boy, it'd be really nice if I had my own swimming pool, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? Like now you want a swimming pool. Okay, well, how do you do that? Traditionally, you'd think that what you'd do is you'd make yourself a better human being until you were making, 2.5 credits per hour or whatever.
Mhm.
And then that would allow you to have some extra credits to do more with it. Um, the problem is that even with the credits, it would have to be, I mean, even the credits sort of imply if you don't work, you don't have a place to live. You know what I mean? But I think that would have to be nullified because you can't just let people starve. I think everybody has a period in their life where they just spin out, and you should be able to
Mhm.
roll out for a year or two and not do anything and still be okay. As long as the bulk of your life is spent producing stuff for society, it's okay if you don't for certain periods of it, which is something capitalism does not afford for in its pure form. You can't just spin out and spend 10 years kind of finding yourself, even though 30 years of your work was put towards society. Um,
Capitalism is very much personal responsibility.
yeah,
Everyone has personal responsibility to have their basic necessities met. That's on you are responsible for meeting your basic needs. I'm responsible for meeting my basic needs.
yeah.
If I want to help you, that's something we can voluntarily engage in, but that's not something the economy requires.
Well, and I'm not sure I agree, only because we always have people who are spun out in every society, all of them across the globe.
I'm not saying they don't that doesn't happen. I'm saying that pure capitalism is very much personal responsibility. That
Yeah,
everyone is required to meet their basic needs and their family's basic needs.
you're right. Yeah, I agree.
Um,
David,
and the economy doesn't require that if you spun out, the economy doesn't require in pure capitalism that I subsidize you because you spun out.
right.
And now we could engage in that because you know me and we're friends, that we could have that voluntary interaction, but the economy doesn't require it for pure capitalism.
Agreed.
Our current system, which is a hybrid economy, it's not capitalism, there is player does exist, right? Where we do have social programs. They're not perfect, and that's why you're looking at your economy to be possibly better than what we have now.
Right.
But yeah, that's
Well,
all.
it's because every human I have ever met, um, every person I have met has had the majority of their life they've been a productive person, but there have been these periods, and depending on where they were financially, the periods were I ended up back at my parents' house, or I ended up living on a friend's couch, or I ended up living under a bridge. But everybody I know, with a handful of exceptions, and usually the exceptions are people who are together and with it, and totally they had their shit together at like 10 years old. You know what I mean? Those kind of
Mhm.
people. Those people tend to be okay. They just never had a moment like that. My sister is one of those. She's never really had a downtime. She's never, but me, I've had I mean, heck, I consider myself still in a period where I happened to be jobless at the point where we were in a recession with a high unemployment rate, and I could not get back into my field. And so then by the time the recession ended, I had spent too much time out of my field, and because just the way the world worked, I ended up never being able to re-enter the field. And now the only thing I can do is re-enter again at the $20,000 a year level, and pretty much have to do I'm going to do the whole work 5,000 hours for $1.50.
Yeah, you probably, as from basically what you told me you did, you probably enter between 50 and 60.
Yeah, but I'm exaggerating for the point of illustration, because really I'm actually doing fine and perfectly content and stuff. But the point is that I spun out in 2013, and we've spent the last 10 years sort of in a lull in my life. Prior to this, though, I worked every day and I did all the stuff and did all the jobs. So I'm looking at what David's saying. It's resources. If you have a near infinite amount of resources that could be used freely, that's exactly what I've got. The conceit in this world is that replicators exist. So there's no problem with food, and all you need is electricity, which can be brought in from solar panels. So or wind generators, or even nuclear generators, or whatever. And those are built by robots, which are automated systems that just assemble them. So you don't need to worry about it. Nobody needs to do the job of pull the lever to make the thing. And nobody needs to do the job of making food. So food can be freely given to everybody. And buildings can be constructed pretty quickly, and there's no space problems right now. And planets are open with lots of space everywhere. There just aren't enough people. So the resource fighting part of this isn't really there. It's part of the seat we have to kind of make. So that's a thing. So you could theoretically just spin out for your entire life, and it really wouldn't affect anybody.
So the interesting thing that I find now with what in our current society is with when some people do spin out, is there are some percentage that will seek out some of the current social constructs that we have for assistance. Because like we knew people that were on food credits or EBT cards, etc.
Right.
Like food, and so many people that went to various programs to train up on something that they could get paid for through grants or various things. And then there is another subsection that when they fall on hard times, they don't do those things. And I never quite understood that. For certainly some of it could be pride. I've seen some people say, oh, I couldn't qualify for that. I'm like, I don't know how that could be, because like I know a whole bunch of people that are getting that and you're worse off than they are. So I'm not quite understanding that. And I don't know if they really did try or not, but I just let it go. But
Sure.
So
well,
even if you have social programs, they won't necessarily be used by people that fall on hard times. So there'll have to be some other kind of mechanism where it's like those resources aren't there to be found, but are instead they find you somehow.
Right. Well, and that's really what I think. I think what would probably happen is if you valued 1 hour of work, then instead of and you are in, and I hate to use the word entitled because it's rough, but we'll just go with it for the benefit of this discussion. You're entitled to room and board and food. That you're entitled to that. I think what would probably happen is you'd have one of those, Bill exists. He's obviously pulling energy into his domicile. There's an apartment. He occupies it. It's being used, but Bill's not getting any credits. So maybe something's wrong with Bill. So we'll go check on Bill and do a wellness check. Are you okay, Bill? And if Bill's like, I just don't know what to do with my life, no problem. Let's get the job specialist in here and let's see what you like to do. Do you have any interest? No, not really. Are you feeling okay? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, instead of, because I feel like one of the problems we've got with society is that because I went through the unemployment stuff. The unemployment stuff did not give a shit about what I felt or where I was mentally or anything like that. They just wanted me to get a job, any job, just get a job. And it was like, so go work on the roads. And I'm like, well, okay, but that's hard. Like I have joint problems. Well, you're just whining. Okay, no problem. Stuff like that. And it was, if you had more of if they came in and said, well, what skills do you have? Instead of, here are the 12 jobs I can give you. You know what I mean? It said, what skills do you have? What do you like to do? What I keep saying these things like what really gets me about this is we had talked already about how I am happy as a clam, oddly doing reports, which isn't what you'd think as a first skill, but you could use me on that and I would totally be happy. I mean, would I be happy working on roads? Well, no, I really wouldn't. But what you could also do is this. You could also say, well, Bill, you haven't been working. Are you feeling all right? Are you feeling okay? And if you're feeling okay, what would you like to do? Well, I don't know. Well, let's put you through a few job tasks that we need done. We need these job tasks done. If you do those, we can kind of do what jobs you don't want to do, process of elimination, or maybe you'll find you like one of these jobs and you want to stay there. Who knows? But no matter what, we'll put you on for a 1 month term on each one of these jobs so that you're not stuck. You're not stuck at these jobs. But, hey, who knows? Maybe you'll pick something up, kind of thing, like an attitude change. I firmly believe that by default, people don't like to be idle. And so I think that if they are idle, something's not right. Because as soon as I realized that I wasn't able to get another job, I started doing other things, because I can't just sit there and watch TV. That was depressing, and it clearly brought me down. It clearly I started to feel bad. And so, and my wife was picking up on it and stuff like that. So, if you had a different attitude toward it, which is, what can I do to get you moving? What can we do to get you motivated to do something? Find a place for you, find a home. But also, if we change the environment so that each job was more, that's what I was saying about meritocracy. It's not any fun firing people at the convention, but I do it for free. That's the sucky part of the job.
Right.
And I still do it for free because the rest of it still feels like family to me. There's a meritocracy here. There's a family to this. I'm doing it because it needs to be done. Things like that. You think about just like work around the house. The number of times that I have pulled crap out of drains or whatever that smells horrible. It's a crappy job, but I don't want my house to be having that problem.
Well, remember, there's still an exchange there, right? Like, you are receiving a certain amount of pleasure being with those people, being there, contributing, and doing all those things.
Right.
If you were incapable of, like, I'm not saying you are, but let's say you were like a sociopath. You were incapable of getting that kind of, hormonal reward for doing those various things, you might not do the go because
Right.
well, why do it? You don't feel good hanging out with those people. You don't get any pleasure being there. The atmosphere does nothing for you. Why go? So there is an exchange. It's not currency, but it's the end result of currency, which is that pleasure part.
Right. Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm saying though, I feel like making it a currency makes it easy to end run around the currency.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I agree with you at the core of a capitalism
Mm-hmm.
concept is you do something for me and I give you a note that effectively says you may do whatever you wish that will make you happy. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
Because you did good work for me and sometimes this work sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to do it. And so it gives you, here's the thing so that to represent that you have done work for me so that whenever you go to the arcade, you can play your arcade game, right? Because that's the thing that gives you pleasure. Or you buy more dice.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that rolls down your world. The point that I'm the point that I'm getting at though is that of course people exploit that system, and that's really kind of what I'm looking at is,
Yeah.
Like
In either your scenario or what it currently exists, I don't think you can not have exploitation.
you probably can't.
Did you ever see like Freakonomics?
No.
So in Freakonomics, there's a study, and they talk about it a lot, where basically 10% of the population, all populations, it doesn't matter, they found that 10% always are trying to rig the system, trying to exploit it in some way, always. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what your system is, it doesn't matter how regulated it is. They're always looking for it, and when they find it, they will exploit it.
Sure. And that could be the, and I mean, I've got to admit, there's a certain part of my brain that's kind of like, man, that would be fun to try to find that 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Try to be one step up on them. Just try. So you could pay me to find that 10%.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the system. So in other words, if I feel that way, I'm sure that there could be people who are looking for people who are gaming the system.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that, if you find those people who are gaming the system, and instead of punishing them, you go, okay, why are you trying to game the system? Why can't you work in the system? You know what I mean? Talk to them. I know that there will always be people who are trying, but
well, I think that assumes all people are reasonable, and that
all people are what?
All people are reasonable, and that there's some hidden mental thing that they just need to overcome, and then they won't do this thing. There is a certain percentage of the population that, like sociopaths are real. They really exist.
Mm-hmm.
They're a small percentage of all human beings, but they're there and they do bad things.
Sure.
So talking to them isn't going to change anything. So what do you do with these various segments of society that are going to try to exploit the system, and talking to them will help? Do you kick them out? Do you monitor them all the time? Like what's the way of handling that? Because I think that's the problem even in our current society. We all keep thinking like you and I are the norm, right? And we're probably not the norm. Like personally, I think we're more above normal. Personally. But that's me. But there is a distribution to society, and there are extremes, and you have to do something about those extremes.
Okay. And you're right. I mean, obviously, there's going to be an end. You know, well, Mr. Dahmer, we've sat down with you and we've tried to work with you, and you keep eating little boys. This has just got to stop, man. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
There's just nothing we can do at this point in time. And you may be right. Of course, I also feel like, so I guess you're right. Fundamentally, at the core of my system will always be that by default, everything has a reason. And if you can work that reason out, you can get to the bottom of it.
Mhm.
And I've got, I mean, it's not just a tinfoil hat, though, in this instance. I do feel like I have a certain amount of providence. Jeffrey Dahmer was abused as a child, really badly abused. You know, even Jeffrey Dahmer has a reason. You know what I mean? Like, you can even take Hitler and psychologically deconstruct him down to understand what was going on. And whether you could work with them to undo that or not is debatable. I can totally get that. But
I think when speaking about those edge cases, I think it would be ill of us to oversimplify, like, oh, they were abused as a child, because a lot of people are abused as
Right.
children, and they don't end up doing that. I think they are a combination of they were abused, they probably were sociopaths to begin with, genetically speaking. They probably had all of these bits that locked into place and created a monster.
Well, and what if, I mean, you just said one of the other key words.
Mhm.
They were predisposed genetically.
Yeah.
Well, if you're
Yeah, maybe in your universe you can cure some of those things.
yeah, I mean, if you're predisposed genetically, can't we just and give you the option? Hey,
Mhm.
Bill, we found out that, you know, gene number 4,322 is flipped. The bit's flipped. That means you're just a psychopath.
Right.
Now, do you want us to go through and repair that, or would you like to be ostracized and just, you know, removed from the system and kicked off the planet?
Mhm.
That's your choice. You can choose one or the other. But, you know, that gene is flipped, and that means that you've got no empathy, and sadly we need empathy in this society to operate. We're very sorry. You know.
So that almost guarantees in your universe that you're going to have some kind of like Maquis situation where there are those that weren't down for being genetically modified to fix what they felt wasn't a problem, and they were kicked out, and they formed some off the side society that steals bits from other civilized cultures and builds their own fleets. And
I absolutely am okay with that group. I mean, I'm not kidding. I think there's even a story there about the empathetic kid that grew up in the world of psychopaths.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, it would be an interesting flipped bit sort of story where you have a story about a kid who grew up in a society which was all the ostracized, kicked out from society. They live in this Maquis world, like you were talking about, where they're all just ruthless and brutal and everything. This one kid's like, but what if we were nice to each other? You know?
Well, if you think about it, it's kind of Australia, right?
Right. I mean, it's the same thing. But I also think that autonomy and agency is critical. Like, you know, like I said, you know, it's Bill, we've discovered you have the, you know, you've done some bad things in your life, and looking at your genetic code, you clearly have the predisposition to be a horrible human being. We can fix that, or you can choose to leave society. That's your choice. Either one of those, but it's still giving you agency. So,
I mean, you might also have the option. We found that you're a sociopath. We can't have you working in the fields you are. Have you thought about military service?
I thought about being a Marine. I mean, because maybe that's not a bad thing. I feel like though the military is handled differently in the Unity, not in the bad guys. The Klingons of my story are a different group of people. They have a different philosophy. So, by the way, it's very important to note that this is the philosophy of my heroes. There are other factions that will have different belief systems so that I can have interface between the two and make them interface and interlock. And one of them is that one of the societies does not agree with this theory for reasons that are not illogical, because I don't want to make them black and white. Here are the good guys, they do all the good things, and then the bad guys are just bad because they're just bad. I want it to be a philosophical difference. I want it to be a difference in belief, and I think one of the core beliefs is I believe that the Commonwealth is sort of takes you, what you were saying about personal responsibility, to an extreme. You know what I mean? So they believe firmly in the personal responsibility. The Unity, being the Unity, believes in group responsibility or team responsibility. And so I think that's sort of what I'm kind of headed for in my head, is that, and that's an oversimplification, because of course it's not like the Commonwealth's like every man for themselves, because you really couldn't make a society work if you believe that. Going to the extreme where every man's for themselves, you'll never be able to build a log cabin. Like you'll lose structure all the way across. So, but
no, I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to go too far in that direction though, because that plays into our tribalism.
Yeah.
A little too much, and then that itself can be bad too. Like your main society, like that your captain is in, if it stresses that, I'm gonna use a trigger word here, that nationalism, too much, then they might become whatever xenophobic is to other species or cultures that you have to work with, even if they are human and they don't like us. They're not.
Even then, I'm actually not opposed to exploring that a little bit. Because the thing about this is that all of these are a mixed bag of races. So it's not racist. They can't be racist. They have to be nationalists. You know what I mean? Because Unity has all of the races. The Commonwealth also have all of the races in it. But I'm not opposed to an interesting twist on that, where it is nationalism to an extent. And actually, that's kind of what I wanted to play into, was the Unity believes that the Commonwealth is all evil because of X, Y, and Z, and the Commonwealth believes the Unity is all evil because of X, Y, and Z. And neither one of them are actually accurate. You know what I mean? Like, their beliefs are different. And a lot of it has to do with a version of, it's not magic. I haven't come up with a good word for it. A supernatural effect that is an effect of that has come from the war that happened before. The Unity will not engage in that supernatural effect, and the Commonwealth will. And for lack of a better word, let's just call it the Force for right now. So the Commonwealth uses the Force, the Unity will not use the Force, yada yada yada. Which of course you're going to find gradients. There are people in the Unity that use the Force, but we don't talk about that sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. So we get these kind of gradients going on.
Every system ever built by man is hypocritical.
Right.
Somewhere they're doing something they said that shouldn't be done.
And that's part of the whole the Alex character. She's part of that long arc story, which isn't the short arc stories. It's that long arc that goes all the way down to the end of the story arcs. Anyway, so I don't want to make them black and white, but I do think that what I do want to do is make, yeah, I mean, because like David's saying things like here, you know, you help the well-being of an orphan, you know, stuff like that. He's talking about kind of things where the meritocracy has badges, and that was kind of what I was thinking with when we were talking about how to make it work. Okay, so let me give another story, because there's another story here. I have a guy who's working with me, who at the con. He works under me. He's one of my people, and he, you know, he was pretty upset. Came to me during one of our meetings, and he was pretty upset. And I was like, "What's?" You know, he's very even keel. He's a very even keel, very, you know. So I'm like, "Wow, what shook you up?" And he's like, "In the program book, it doesn't have me as an area head. It says that I'm a specialized person, a specialized word, not area head." And I realized, to him, that was the merit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being an area head was a merit.
And
we gave him a cute name because we didn't even think about it. We didn't even consider it. We just thought he would have this cool nickname, so we called him. But then he came to me with, "But now I'm not considered an equal with the other area heads." Oh, I hadn't thought about that. So we've got like these, you know, first titles mean something in a meritocracy. It's critical. It'll be very important that that even civilians have lieutenant and captain and major, maybe not in word, but class of people, you know, who do more things and do more work, get a higher class and status in society because they did more work. That's the function of a meritocracy, you know. I think
it's that, and I'm using the situation. I'm not judging him specifically, but it's also to have something rare that no one else has is valuable, and it has value that, you know, it's like currency. To you, it is value.
Right.
So it's like in gaming and like World of Warcraft, like, you know, you do this big raid and you do it on heroic quality and you get a title, right? And then you get to change the title and you get to show it off to everyone. That has value, right? That's how they keep you in there, and that's how they keep you paying, because in return they're giving you rare things that you can show other people that you have, and they don't.
Well, and I feel like I think, thinking the way the military works, they've got these things sort of under control. You have a rank and you have awards. The more awards you have, the more respect people give you. You did more things. This is my medal for being in the Snurgleblatt War. This is my medal for saving 12 people in a burning building that was being shot up by enemy forces medal. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And I've actually kind of thought of this in an interesting way. Wouldn't it be interesting if there were ribbons for real life? You know, this is I'm a dad medal. I'm a parent medal. It means this is my teacher medal. You know, I was in a classroom. I've got classroom cred. You know, you would find people who like, this is I coded an entire OS by myself medal. You know, with cluster, which means I didn't do it just once, I did it twice. You know, sort of thing. So everybody would have like medals that mean something. You would read it. Some of them would be easy to read, and some of them would be obscure. The military does a lot of that, you know.
The problem with most of those in any system where you're awarded a badge or a medal or a ribbon or anything is that rarity becomes unfair. And so what they start to do is people start to eat away at the system so that it's easier and easier to get them to the point where everyone gets them. And that's that whole argument of like where all kids get a participation award because we can't have anyone left out.
Well, and I could see that,
Mm-hmm.
but I also feel like we as a society are starting to find that doesn't pan out. The
Mhm.
participation medals don't pan out. And the truth is, the participation medal aspect of society shows up and then tends to go away in cycles, but we tend to spend more of the bulk of the time giving people an award that means something and less of the bulk of the time trying to give everybody the award.
Right.
But I mean, there are some things that when we talk about this, like for example, I'm a parent.
Mhm.
Other parents meet me.
Mhm.
The moment they find out that I'm a parent, we're on the same team. We all understand. We've all been down the road. You know what I mean? And you can't just say, well, we're going to give everybody the parent medal.
Mhm.
Pepper, do you need to say something?
I'm heading off.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be heading off soon too.
Well, yeah, but you can finish up your conversation. I'm just saying I'm kind of done.
I know. I'm with you. Pepper. You can join me tomorrow if you want.
Bye. See you
later.
See you tomorrow.
So,
All right.
Good night. So yeah, I mean that, and I'm hearing that. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but how do you fake everybody gets a parent medal?
So the participation award was a band-aid on the unfairness feeling that kids were getting in competitionary scenarios. We also did the same thing in a lot of aspects with like college education, right? Like some people had degrees and some people didn't. Those with degrees got paid more. That's unfair. So we need to make getting degrees easier. And instead of propping up education, quality education, and I don't mean financial.
I know what you mean.
I have issues with funding education that I don't want to discuss right now. But just
we'll assume in my society that the education's fine and everything's perfect.
Right. The quality of it, instead of bringing the quality of the education up, so that we're all able to achieve this rarer thing, we brought down the standards by which you could achieve said degree.
Right.
So it's making a lot of degrees that was worthless.
But it's equalizing.
Mm-hmm.
Because now what we're finding is that the teachers, what really has had to happen was the teachers needed to individualize their learning plans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's becoming a little bit easier to do now because we are not ignoring certain things, like specifically ADD. As ADDers, we came through a generation where there wasn't a problem with us. We were just belligerent jerks. And so beating on us was an appropriate thing to do. Instead of addressing the problem, beat the kids, and then the kids just didn't do the job. More and more of us showed up in the system. The system started to neutralize out, and then all of a sudden we were graduating people who were incompetent because beating on people doesn't work. Now they're discovering that if they don't beat on people, but rather try to work with them to get get everybody's individual and everybody's different, and work with each person to try to they're getting a better result all the way across the board for everybody.
To me, that's raising the quality. That's an example of raising
quality, right? So now we're raising the bar. The problem, of course, is that because there's other problems with that system that has occurred that I'm agreeing with you, by the way. This is me agreeing with you, not going against what you're saying. With that same problem now, what's happened is now a diploma, a bachelor's degree is required by a number of jobs that normally wouldn't, because a high school diploma is not a valuable enough level.
There's degree inflation.
Right. So now you have problems where, and then we have another issue in the system, which is now by default, you have to have a degree in order to get any kind of reasonable job, which means that people are now demanding that the degrees be free so that you can now put everybody through the system that is required by the base minimum. And that's part of your inflation that you're talking about. So I think it would have to be standardized and held and locked down. So you'd have another group of see, the thing is, I think that we also devalue our thinkers, the people who like to think through things.
Right.
So if you have a bunch of these things, who you find the people like me who like to look through systems and see if they're working, you know, and I don't care whether I'm not biased necessarily. I just want the system to work well. And I love to solve problems. My sister and I are both very similar in this, even though we're two different types of people. So I see think tanks being a great asset in my society. You have a group of people whom sit there and go, okay, well, now how much math do they really need to operate in society now? They don't really need, you know, trigonometry to get out of base society. Every job requires only basic math. Okay, well then, to get your award that says you are through the first level of school and can now operate in society, that award, you must be able to pass a test that says you know basic math, but you don't have to pass algebra. Now, if you want the I work in a math thing award, then you have to pass algebra. You know, I'm going to be a computer programmer. I'm going to be a programmer. Then you need to have algebra. You know, you need to have like trigonometry. You need to have those badges on your little badge chart.
I still think you'll need some kind of mechanism in there to fight
bloat.
Not bloat, but the to combat the unfairness emotion of those that have these things and those that don't. And that will lobby to lower the bar so that they can get in. And then that lobby grows again, and that bar needs to be lowered again and again and again until that unfairness feeling goes away, I guess. But you don't want it so much so that the bar is now so low that the thing is meaningless.
Well, I also wonder if your unfairness feel is either I feel like that's a transparency problem. People feel unfair because of transparency issues.
It's both. It's two parts. It's transparency and understanding.
Right.
You can tell me that you did XYZ, and I don't understand what XYZ is, so it doesn't sound hard. So I'm like, that doesn't matter to me because it didn't sound like something I guess I couldn't do. You know, I'm armchair. You know, if this were a math thing, armchair math thing. Going, I could do that. Why can't I have a ribbon?
Right. Well,
it is hard. And if I actually applied myself, I would find it was hard. And if I was good at it, maybe I would just get the ribbon.
Right. Well, and I think that the obvious choice to that one is, okay, go take the test. You know what I mean? That's fine. And I think you will still have people who go, well, the test was rigged. I think you'll always have somebody like that. You know what I mean? I don't think that's ever going to stop. But because I think you're absolutely right about this, where you talk about that kind of thing. Part of the reason that we are where we are politically is that people don't understand.
Right.
You know, they'll say, well, we are $5 trillion in debt or whatever. And so obviously our president is an idiot because they think that debt in a country works like debt in your wallet. Which it doesn't. You know, they're completely different things. And in the system, they just used a similar word. So just because you have a homophone, you got all of a sudden people who believe that it functions the same way. So I think you're absolutely right. Part of the problem is ignorance. So I think it'd be simple to say, that's fine. It's no problem. If you think you're being unfair, you are welcome to take the test at any time. And if you pass the test, you too have the ribbon. You know what I mean? Like, make it open. If you want that, because I think part of the problem also is I can't just go to a college and say, hey, I'm an expert at X, Y, or Z. Give me the ribbon. They'll go, oh, no. Get into Algebra 101 right now. and spend a lot of money on this. Oh, and spend time. And since you're spending all this time and money, we're also not going to let you be paid. So you're going to have to work 3 or 4 jobs to try to still get your, you know what I mean? We have to work you into the ground first before you get the little ribbon. But if I could go to a college and say, I'm an expert in auto mechanics, and they go, oh, really? Rebuild this engine. And then I go, okay, no problem. And I take the engine apart and I put the engine back together again. They go, here's your ribbon. Here's your degree. You know, it's that simple. You know, and the tests made sense in some way. I mean, you can't just make the test stupid, because that's obviously exactly the problem you're talking about. But if the test made sense and was a practical operation that you could do, then, and anybody could do it. I could walk in and I just spent all my time on YouTube learning how engines worked, and I'm an expert at it. And maybe there was a junk car in the backyard that I took apart and put back together again and made it run. You know, then you can just give me the auto mechanic award, and I've got the little award. Now you can hire me to be an auto mechanic because I clearly know my stuff. You know, and you know, when you get to the field theory of, you know, nuclear engines or whatever, okay, if you really want to do that, here's the test. Wow, the first word on here, I don't even know what that means. Clearly, you need to go back and study more. But there's nothing that says you can't come back and take this test again. You know, there's no reason why you can't take this test. You know, we're not barring you from it. And it's the same test that every nuclear physicist has ever taken. You know what I mean? Nothing's changed. So you can't really sit there and go, well, you're just discriminating against me because I've got a blue shirt on, which probably, oh no, it is blue. I can't tell because all my lights are blue.
Oh, I figured maybe it was white and it's just blue because of the lights.
Right? That's what I was thinking too. But, you know, you can't say you're discriminating against me because I've got gray hair. You're discriminating against me because I got blue eyes. I did the same test that every physicist has ever taken. And it's probably news. You know, this is a news thing, by the way. The Society of Nuclear Physicists has decided to change the test slightly by adding a small section in there about fission, because now we use fission reactors as well. So you have to be able to take apart and put together a fission reactor in order to pass the test. So I feel like if you did that, you can't complain. I think part of the reason why you have participation trophies was little Timmy couldn't run as fast as Jimmy or Tom. You know, Tom and Jimmy, Timmy couldn't run as fast as each other, and Timmy, because he was so slow, kept crying. Okay, but it was a race. If you gave Timmy the ability to do something else, because Timmy's not fast, so Timmy gets the award for fastest reader, and Tom gets the award for fastest runner. That's a different thing. But if everybody's concentrating on the sports day, and sports day is the only major effect that's going on, and Tom's the fastest runner in the school, then yeah, somebody has to get a participation trophy for that, because Tom's just going to wipe the floor. I think about that a lot because I had somebody in my school who was obviously the most incredible singer. And she had the most incredible voice. And she got the lead in every school play.
So I think the answer to that is not participation awards. I think the answer to that is sometimes don't select her, you know, give other people a chance. Or, you know, maybe you should also promote the concept as like, just because she's better than you doesn't mean you shouldn't stop trying.
Well,
find your own path, find your own voice.
And that was, of course, obviously what my music teacher did, was pick other things. But diversifying out, in other words, diversifying out the players in the play, so that there were plays that were musicals and plays that weren't musicals, would have helped too. Because the problem was the teacher was into musicals, and so every one of our plays was a musical. Well, of course, she had the best, most beautiful voice, so naturally she got the lead in everything. But if you had, you know, all kinds of different diverse plays, and they weren't always musicals, you'd end up in that much better position. And I'm actually kind of exaggerating a little bit. The music teacher was a really good guy, and he actually did do exactly that.
Mhm.
He shook it up. But
And I always wonder in your job market if you also have to have some kind of mechanism that purposely will once a year like put you in a challenge position or something like that, where it's like
Yes.
one step up. It's like just do the best you can. If you have questions, ask. You know, it's not critical. You're not going to blow up a ship. I mean, let's not do that with positions that might blow up a ship. But and if they do a great job, you know, be like, do you want to stay in this position? You're doing a pretty good job at it.
Yeah.
Because I think complacency is a problem amongst us as well.
well, but yeah, but you could flip the script on that one.
Mhm.
And that is, hey, Bill, you're doing a great job in this job. You've been here for about 4 years, but yeah, I've been watching you. We've been talking over coffee.
Mhm.
I don't know, man. Are you feeling okay? Do you want to move up?
Mhm.
We can move you up. We got spaces. You know what I mean? Like if you flip the script on that, we're the boss. That's one of their responsibilities.
Mhm.
As a meritocracy, that would make some sense, right? I'm starting to have streaming issues.
I think you also need to think too, where like even in the same field, where like let's say just artists or graphic artists,
Sure.
where it's like you'll have some graphic artists they like go into work, they like doing the same thing every day, and that's fine. That's fine for them. You'll have some graphic artists that are like, no, I need to innovate and envision something new, like all the time, like just something new, give me something new. So you almost have to have like two tracks where it's like, you want to be a cog. That's your thing.
Yeah.
And I want to be cog. I want to be in the trenches. I want to do things that no one has ever done before in my field. Give me a new problem. Like I want to reach warp 9.2 and we're at warp 9 and I want that challenge.
Right.
Where the other warp mechanic, he just is working on the warp nacelles. That's a thing. He's fine with it.
I feel like you'd have like two classes of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You've got your I hate these terms, but you've got the chief and the Indian. You know what I mean? Like, and I think also as people, we spend a lot of time in one or the other mode, but we don't always spend all of our time in those modes. It's a percentage. Like for me, I like to innovate, but there are times where I really enjoy a good cruise. I don't need to do anything. I just do the same thing over and over and over and over for a while, and it feels really nice to have accomplished something. But yeah, most of the time I need to be pushing.
Mm-hmm.
But even me, and my sister's the same way. She's in reverse. She likes to just keep moving forward on a common goal and keep putting the blocks together until everything is complete. And then she likes the completion of it, even if it takes years. But every so often she likes to try to push. You know what I mean? But she's reversed in that manner from me. So I kind of feel like, yeah, I think there would have to be, you'd get your little award for being the cog, and then you get your award for innovation. And that means that whenever I look at you for a job, I can see that you will cog with a cluster, which means that you like to cog a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You also have innovation, which means that I can ask you for an innovation, but I can see where your preference is.
Yeah.
You've cogged a lot.
It's like an augment to the job where it's like, I am worker X. I like to do cog things. Please don't put me in innovation. I'm bad at it.
I have a buddy who's that way.
Yeah.
He really cannot stand to be in a leadership role. He does not want to be in a leadership role. He refuses. He's been working with the convention since the beginning. He's been there every year for all 26 years of this convention. And they keep saying, do you want to move up? And he's like, nope. I will be just a worker in this room, and I will be at every stupid, move things around and ship things around. And he is a happy, happy puppy. And he never wants the responsibility, and he never wants the leadership.
Yeah.
So
and in mine, I would have both check boxes where it's like, I'll go and innovate, and when there's nothing to innovate, I'll go fix the warp nacelle.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. I think most people would do that. I think you are like most people.
Yeah.
I think I'd find the most people are totally happy innovating a little bit, doing things need to be done, coming back and innovating a little bit, and going to. I think that people like me who need to push all the time are rarer. I think that people like my buddy Kevin, who's perfectly content being the cog all the time, are also rarer. I think you'd find the bulk of us are like you, where you'll do both, whichever needs to be done. You're okay with whatever needs to be done, whichever position, and you're pretty comfortable in both positions. So I think that's you'd find us on these outliers.
I honestly get uncomfortable if it's not a good balance. Like if I'm doing too much cog, I'll start looking for somewhere else. If like you said, if it's just too much innovation, and it's like I don't have time for my brain to like cool down so it doesn't overwhelm. Then I'm like, this is too much.
Yeah, I'm actually opening a document so that I write this all down, because otherwise I'm going to forget. We've done a lot of good work, and this is exactly what I was just talking about before. I was like, what were we saying? And this is so good.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is so good.
It's midnight though, and I do need to get to
I need to go to bed, so I will write this all down, and hopefully I'll see you again. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. It's recorded, so you can seek back.
It's all recorded. We can always go back for it now. Now it's all here. It all exists.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Bill. I really do appreciate it. And for everybody else, thanks for being here, David. Thanks for being here, Brent. I think I lost Brent a long time ago. That's all right. It was good to see you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And as always, keep your eyes on the stars. Bye-bye.